What is up, guys? It is Stu, and it is another episode of the What the Fuck Gym Talk podcast. And I have probably the better, smarter half of the Charlesworths. I had Andrew on the podcast a while back, and that's one of the better downloaded episodes, like within a 30-day period that I had it for that moment in time. We literally, I think, what would Stu do if he opened a CrossFit affiliate now? And your husband hit me with some great questions. We had a really good conversation. I got a lot of good feedback on that, but I'm excited to have his better half on here for today. So, Jen, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Thank God you had him too, because his brain is a strange place. And I always say, can't you just tell a friend this stuff? Like, I'm your wife. Go find a friend. So thank you for being his friend.
No problem. No problem. Anytime you just, I'd be like, hit Stu up and get on the podcast because you're driving me fucking nuts. Will you do everyone real quick, everyone, like the 90-second, 2-minute wrap up, kind of who you are, what you do?
Sure. Jen Charlesworth. I am a CrossFit affiliate owner in Fenton, Michigan with Andrew. He is the finance guy, the business guy. I'm the programmer out of the two of us. And just a happier human, the greeter. So we've been open since 2015. Been on CrossFit seminar staff, level 1, level 2, CrossFit Kids since 2014. And yeah, CrossFit has been my life. So
is CrossFit Tuebor? Is it Tuebor?
Tuebor.
Tuebor. I always pronounce that wrong.
We were in that time period in 2015 where all of the names were taken.
Sure.
So it's like, let's do one in Latin because that's a great idea. And it means I will defend. It's on the Michigan flag.
There's an opportunity from a branding perspective when things are hard to pronounce and what's my guess? 99% of people fuck up the pronunciation of it.
Oh yeah, it's Tuber always.
Yeah, so it's like CrossFit Tuebor, hard to the word's hard to say, the community is easy to love, or something. Like there's an opportunity to like have a little spin on it, because I think like the best part, like my favorite brands are the ones that are self-aware of their shortcomings, like the things that make them what it is they are, instead of like hiding behind it. Like whatever that thing is that you're kind of insecure about, like bring it to the absolute front and own it. And I feel like that's always just a much more like a likable brand perspective type scenario. Like if CrossFit from the beginning, everyone, when 2006, 5, I'm talking about CrossFit and people like cross training. I'm like, fuck no, I kind of wish they would have just called this like really hard fucking workouts.com. Like I wish that was I wish there would have been just a little bit more transparency with it. But okay. You said you're the programmer. Andrew's the brain, the business side of the whole thing. How did you fall into that? What's your background?
I have a bachelor's of science in exercise science. Okay. So that was my original Grand Valley State.
Okay.
Ran track there. Andrew was a basketball player at Lake State. So same division, GLIAC at the time, but different years. So we never met in college. But I started in personal training and quickly found out that my clients weren't getting the results that I wanted because I didn't know anything. I hadn't taken my level 1 yet. I knew I wanted something more for them. I just loved the interaction and the relationship building that personal training brought. And to the point where I started doing little group sessions, and I'm like, this is cool. Like people like working out with each other. Found CrossFit in 2009, got my level 1 shortly after that. And I was actually doing my master's in exercise science, and I dropped out of the program because of the just shift in my, views on fitness after taking that level 1. And started coaching with Joe DeGain, who is a flow master in the level 1 staff, and a lot of tough love from him, but made me the person that I am and the coach that I am. So that's kind of the shift from personal training to CrossFit and group training.
Absolutely. I got a chance to meet Joe, and it was under extremely, at the end of it was really unfortunate circumstances during a little issue we had with seminar staff hosting something at my gym that weekend. And that was like that was the end of me hosting courses at there. And we just a little bit of a mishap, and Joe was nice enough to try to resolve the issue, but it did not work. I got the axe there afterwards on hosting those. So this is if I if I called someone that listens to the podcast or someone was like, hey, listen, I've got someone coming on. Who do you think it is? The last thing anyone's going to guess is a member of CrossFit seminar staff or anyone of member of CrossFit proper. I think for whatever reason, I don't. I don't truly, maybe I understand a little. I don't, a lot of people don't really think I get along well with them, or I have a disdain for CrossFit, and it couldn't be further from the truth. Can I ask how did you come on to, how did my stuff infiltrate you? How did you first encounter it?
Well, my husband,
Okay.
very into the business side of things. You know, I CrossFit has had, I want to say, a history of like, I think in the early 2000s when we first came out, we shamed bodybuilding, like that's stupid, that doesn't get you results, or we shamed other fitness methodologies, like no, we're the most intense, we're gonna make you throw up. And that was where the brand was at the beginning, and which is fine, you know. But I think as we have expanded our knowledge in our business, I want to find out how can I bring the best of all of these businesses to ours. And you know, with your talking about like, I don't know, price per square foot, I think was something that you recently spoke about, or how can I get more value per member? How can I make each person's experience like super proficient and cost effective for me? And that's all like trickled down from Andrew's research, but I see the benefit of it. And I think the CrossFit snobbery is overplayed. And I think it's time that we as a brand and as a business can kind of branch out and find out like, why are these things working for Orange Theory? Why are these things working for like someone like Street Parking, Miranda and Julian? Why are their brands expanding so quickly? And how can we take the best of those brands and make our brand, you know, expand? And that's kind of where our gym is at in
I,
terms of finding the best.
I agree so much with that. You look at those other brands you mentioned, like Orange Theory or an F45 or a Metabolic or any of these, the corporate, you know, people, the franchise brands that most affiliate owners like. I mean, when you and me started early in the day, we hated Globo gyms. There wasn't any
Yeah.
boutique fitness to hate. You just hated a Globo gym. That was just like
Mm-hmm.
us and versus them. And then 2013, 14 hits, Orange Theory, and then the whole boutique explosion we've had. But they looked at CrossFit and didn't say, fuck them. They looked at CrossFit
Mm-hmm.
and said, that group fitness thing that they're doing, mixing the cardio and the resistance training, so essentially intra-session concurrent training, that's smart. Now, they're doing it on a $12 budget, and I've got about $1 million right here I can do it 10 times prettier with. And I think they're
Mm-hmm.
missing a niche, I think they're missing a portion of the market. But
Mm-hmm.
I like what they're doing. Like I've never met an Orange Theory franchisee, a Metabolic franchisee, or anyone else that shits on CrossFit, like
Right.
the methodology. And I think maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's where I was leading to with this. Like I have zero problems with CrossFit. I still think CrossFit is the most influential, most important thing to happen to the fitness industry in the history of the fitness industry. You know, I'd put Jack LaLanne in there, and I'd put the original Gold's Gym in Venice, and I put some other things up there with it. But beyond that, it's CrossFit. My problem isn't the
Mm-hmm.
methodology. It's the horrible interpretation of the methodology at the affiliate level.
Right.
And when you have something as agnostic as CrossFit, it's not well defined in the business sense, in the fitness methodology sense it is, but
Mm-hmm.
it's very broad at the fitness sense. And that was done on purpose. And if I'm Greg, I probably wouldn't have touched that with a 10-foot pole if I were him either.
Mm-hmm.
Let everyone else figure it the fuck out. But it's just the interpretation and how it's ran and the little subcultures and pockets that it creates that, I mean, but again, it's, you know, what do you think about the definition of CrossFit? Constantly varied functional movements at high intensity. What is your thought on that?
You know, it can be interpreted in any way, and I think that's the beauty of it, is like that's why CrossFit affiliates aren't a franchise. We're not telling you how to run your program. And in fact, like we took constantly varied functional movements and executed it at a low intensity for about 8 months. We used the Maftone method, heart
Oh,
rate
wow. Yeah.
training. Yeah.
180 minus your age. I love it.
Yep. And our members loved it. We saw more retention in that 8 months. They weren't burnt out. They weren't so fried at the end of a 21:15:9 that they couldn't come to the gym for the next 2 days. They were hungry and in the gym 7 days a week. And that is how, from where our program evolved from, is like they were all strapped to heart rate monitors. We had a big screen and everyone could see where they were, where their heart rate was. They were trying to stay in their MAF ranges.
Yeah.
And workouts were no shorter than 45 to 50 minutes every class.
Why? So I love, did you use heart rates or allow them to use heart rates? Did you like have the chest ones and just allow them to use the optic nerve on the wristwatch? How'd you do it?
We all had just the chest Wahoo, and then they had
Oh,
the
Wahoo. Yeah. Yeah. I know that brand.
yep,
Okay.
I can't remember the app that we used,
Okay.
but we offered a Pnoe test for them. So we had upwards of, I think, 60 people come through and take a Pnoe and get their actual ranges from where they cross over from fat burning to sugar burning. And it was a slap in the face for a lot of people. Like, well, I walk up the stairs and I'm above my MAF. And it's like, well, yeah, our goal is to somewhat repair that. And once you can stay in these ranges for, X amount of reps, then we can bump up your MAF to whatever it may be.
On
But
that Pinoy, for everyone listening, that's it's relatively newer in the space, but essentially it's a traveling VO2 max metabolic cart, right?
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
yep. You just strap it to the face,
Yeah.
and we did a bike protocol. We worked with Max Fingsbeener. He's a gym owner in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he formed Ticker Training,
Okay.
which was essentially using the MAF method with CrossFit.
That's
And
awesome.
it was fantastic. And again, and we love Ticker Training, and we loved using the heart rate monitors and the MAF method, but it got a little bit redundant, and I feel like we lost the edge a little bit of like why people love CrossFit. It's like, oh, I kind of like being a little bit nervous sometimes about the workout that I do, or people bond over the difficulty of things. Not that it affected our community, but we just liked going back to that edge. But it shaped how I program. We don't do a ton of short workouts anymore, and everyone says like, oh, my programming is the best. Like, I understand that, but that recovery piece from learning about the MAF method and like how we can lower our heart rate back down and recover, essentially to spike it back up, recover it. That's exactly how we program a ton of ergs, longer workouts. And we are finding still that people are in the gym more than 5 times a week, all the time.
For everyone listening, just if you do do some Googling on Phil Maffetone and what he does, what he essentially prescribed, there's a lot at that time, like Born to Run had come out and the 80-20 principle in the endurance world was out there. And Phil essentially used a 180, very arbitrary number, but 180 minus your age to generally give you the heart rate zone you should train at the majority of the time in order to create a strong aerobic base. I used a lot of MAF stuff when I started training for this marathon in Chicago. And then I stumbled onto the work of Rich Diaz. He wrote The Dark Side, Training the Dark Side. So essentially his concept and I just had him on the podcast. It's going to drop soon. He did a really nice piece with Ryan Fisher, got a lot of exposure, but then like it was right before COVID and it lost. Are you familiar with Rich Diaz at all?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay. All right. So again, like that idea of that undulating intensity within a segment. So if you're doing a 40-minute workout in class, instead of keeping everyone at MAF, a nice steady heart rate, just like boom, different pieces. I looked at that. I was like, man, if I was still running a CrossFit gym at that time, I definitely think I would look into something like that. I would look into something to get a longer duration, varying intensities via heart rate, because it is a metric that we can all access, and everyone's already voted. Everyone's got some kind of wearable on their wrist. So even if you don't want to buy the Polar wrist chest straps or any of those brands, but let me ask you this. So what was I'm really curious because you seem to have liked it. Was it because the intensity was just at MAF and that's what was boring with it? Like, were you just getting feedback from members? Did you get some cancellations? Why did you change it?
I think we maybe lost one member during that time out of the 8 months. Whatever, it is what it is. That happens all the time. But yes, it was the little bit of the redundancy of staying at MAF and the patience. And for people coming in, like new people, they're like, wait, this is not what I thought CrossFit was. This is very different. And now I need a heart rate monitor and I need 3 apps and I need X, Y, and Z. So the entry difficulty was a little bit, one of the reasons why we changed, but it definitely shaped again, like how we program with that kind of just what you said, the varying intensities, bringing the heart rate back down for recovery. And that allows us to work longer because think about your 21:59 or your sub 8 minute workouts. People are frazzled after that, like absolutely damaged. And that leads to less time in the gym because they're too sore to come. That leads to problems outside of the gym. Like can't parent, can't walk down the stairs because I'm so sore from this workout. And yeah, I think that was just a way for us to kind of dip our toes into something that we wanted to try of the intensity, the CrossFit methodology, just our way.
Yeah. If you looking back at it, obviously there was a hardware barrier to entry type scenario with the heart rate monitor. There was some redundancy if you follow the math method. But
Yeah.
did the clients like having a metric other than whiteboard score, time score, to follow? Like, did they like the kind of like, again, if you put everyone at a certain range or heart rate, hey guys, we're going to do double Fran today, but don't exceed zone 4 type scenario. Like, did they enjoy that? Or do you think, was that just too cumbersome?
I think a lot of people did enjoy the removal of the leaderboard for a time. And then it was like, okay, I'm kind of interested in seeing like where I'm at,
Yeah.
And I get that because I'm super competitive with myself and with other people in the gym. That's just what I like to do. And so I will live and die by the leaderboard. It's just, that's to me fun, but it doesn't have to be fun to be fun. So whatever's fun for them, like some people, we've had members that have been there for 8 years who have never used the leaderboard,
Yeah.
and so that removal was, I think, refreshing for a lot of people. Like, I just can just like come in and just like do my thing. I just have my own metric, I have my own math. And if you're on our screen, if your little square with your initials was red, it's funny because people would be turning around like, Trisha, are you all right back there? Like she's like red and everyone else is staying in their green, and then it would creep up to yellow and then orange and then red. So it's like, I think Orange Theory, you stay in the orange or whatever. I don't know what they do, but
Yeah.
but our goal was to stay in the green, and it's just funny the transition like that happened with that of watching people like turn around like she's in the red. Is she doing all right back there? And
It
it was
allows
just
people to be fucking nosy. That's what I've never liked. So
yeah,
at Orange Theory, I would never wear it. I'd go and try out that gym constantly when it first showed up in the scene, and I still do. I think the last classic was like maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
yeah,
But yeah, it's almost like a nosy. It's like if I could take that part out and just teach people how to read that, because again, some kid fucking dry scoop some C4 before coming into the take the class. It's gonna
yeah,
be different. And you also, the thing that's most interesting, if anyone's listening to this, because I think a lot of people have wanted to make either mild to severe programming shifts, and they're
mm-hmm,
afraid of what's going to happen.
mm-hmm,
When you mentioned only one person canceled, that's a high testament to the leadership that you guys have in the gym, in which they buy into you. Whereas
mm-hmm.
at a lot of CrossFit gyms, they're not really bought into the coaches and owners as much as but if Ben Bergeron makes a video tomorrow about something, they're going to do that tomorrow, even though they've never met him and he's never met them. They've
Mm-hmm.
bought into somebody else. And I
Right,
feel like the best gym owners who are involved at even the CrossFit affiliate level have the buy-in from the staff. They look at them, they are the subject matter expert. That's who I trust.
yeah,
Let me ask you this, if you did not have to convert, you were converting, but you were switching up on CrossFitters. You essentially took CrossFitters and then you changed what CrossFit was to them. And you did
mm-hmm.
so successfully for a period of time, which is better than most could do. If I gave you a fresh gym, a fresh brand, and said from day one, everyone that comes in, train them to do whatever you were doing with the math thing and the heart rate or whatever, I guarantee you, I think you could run that as a programming model at a gym
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't have to rewire them. Was it the rewiring that was just never going to last long term?
Yeah, I think, and like I said, the redundancy too. It was, some people were just itching to go fast, which I get. Some people would just take their chest strap off and just be like, I'm just gonna do this workout, and it was like, good luck. It's 1 hour long. I don't know how you're gonna approach this with intensity, but we'll see what happens. And it was a little bit of rewiring, but for the most part, we're just like, we have some elite competitors. We have Jordan Chefs, who's 42nd in the world right now, after the Open. And those elite people are going to do their elite things, right? We're just like middle-aged people. We just want to come in for an hour and sweat and feel good. And we don't want to be badgered about hip extension for 1 hour. And that's just the nature of our community. So the rewiring was a little bit hard, but like you said, if we're bought in, if Andrew and I are bought in, and it's not like we were selling it, but we believe it so much, and we have done this long enough where we can see the effects of the outliers of like hammering people. It's just how you approach it. It's how you sell it. And it's, believing in your product 1,000%.
It's so funny. The elite athletes in your gym, training for a sport is redundant. Like if you're training for an event, it's actually very, very, very redundant. It's only now in this boutique world, which again was kicked off by CrossFit, that is ADD based. I mean, it's like, what's next? I need another stimulus. We did that last week. What are we doing this week? Oh my, like it's a constant need for that thing. And earlier I asked you what you thought of the CrossFit definition. And to go back to that second, my issue with the CrossFit definition is now a genre.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to pinpoint it as a brand, and it's more because a brand is just a customer's perception of an organization or a service. So if you go and we just walked around and interviewed 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 people and collectively gathered that information, that would be the brand of CrossFit. But constantly varied functional movements at high intensity per that definition, every Orange Theory, every F45, every Barry's Bootcamp, everything that's being done today is of that variety. You could argue the functional element, like, oh, that's functional or that's not functional, either way. But at the end of the day, it's almost like CrossFit's three things now. It's a genre, it's a fitness methodology, and it's a sport. Fuck, that's a heavy lift. Like that's a heavy lift to try to create one from a branding perspective. Like who's ever doing branding at CrossFit, they have their work cut out for them. 100%. What are your thoughts on? I mean, did you get to meet with Eric Rosa when he came in? Did you ever get to meet Greg Glassman? Have you met the new guy, Don Fall? Like, what is your thought? Because it was kind of musical chairs over there at the C-suite level for a few months.
I haven't met those guys really in depth. But it is hard. Like the bleed over is like, well, I saw CrossFit on ESPN. Is that what CrossFit is? And we're like, yeah. It's like, well, also there's a grandma doing CrossFit. Is that CrossFit? It's like, well, yeah. And it's like, and then you take your level 1 and you can open an affiliate. So now you're a business owner. Is that CrossFit? Like, well, yeah. And it's like, I think with the education department and the affiliation department and all this stuff, like they're all bleeding together, and it's hard on affiliate owners because I don't like when affiliate owners blame CrossFit for their problems. Like your problem is you. And yes, you took this perfectly packaged course. The CrossFit Level 1 is a beautiful kernel of what it means to get started in fitness. And it really does have all the tools that you need to get started in fitness. But if you're going to blame the CrossFit Level 1 for your problems as an affiliate owner, like that's it's you. It's your problem.
Yeah.
But where that is a problem is like the affiliate owners will come and say, hey, I'm having a problem. They're like, well, did you try coaching better? And they're like, well, yeah. And it's like, okay, so that's bleeding into the education department. Okay, well, have you really, really done a heavy day? And they're like, hey, I do heavy days. It's like, have you tried caring more? And you're like, well, yeah, I care, or else I wouldn't be here. So it's like, what department are we going to? We can't help affiliate owners with the education department is what the issue is. So it's kind of like you said, it's all bleeding in, and it's difficult for affiliate owners. Andrew's the Midwest affiliate rep, and we can't fix affiliate owners' problems with fixing hip extension, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So when you were saying we can't fix the education problem, you're saying because the education currently solely revolves around human movement and seeing and improving the education. Okay. And
so let's perfect human movement. Like that is the goal of the education department. How can I see hip extension? How can I fix this person's squat? How can I get their toes to bar better? And yes, that's important, but that doesn't solve the problem that affiliate owners are having, which is they're just bad business people.
I agree. I remember I was in Seattle. We were doing a speaking thing, and someone during the Q&A asked me, said I made mention about something about CrossFit does more for you guys. You get more than your money's worth for $3,000. I said something to that effect. And he goes, yeah, but that, we get certified, we go, we pay, we fly, we take the course, we take the test, and we go back, and would they leave us hanging out to dry without any business information? I'm like, oh, you don't remember the business pages on the back of the level 1 test? He goes, there wasn't. I'm like, you're fucking right, there wasn't, man. Like,
Yeah.
no one ever claimed to do that for you. And for $3,000 a year to do a thing, you shouldn't expect, but also just do basic Googling and franchise versus license laws in the United States. They can provide best practices, which it sounds like where they're going. I mean, there's plenty of gray area you can ride as a license model to provide education as to how you should run it. The education's out there. I mean, wrap up the 10 guys that make business content in fitness. I mean, like, whether it's the boys over best hour of their day, or me, or Kalipa, or JP, or fucking Alex from, I don't care who it is. Like, it's not that the information isn't out there, or some variety. We all might have difference of opinions on it. It's lack of execution, you fucks. Like, information is out there. So like, CrossFit might not be officially supplying that information, but there's Tuebor, and there's this, and there's that. There's 1,000 guys that are doing this right now. It's out there. So it's like, I don't understand. If you were like, man, I don't know how to hang my TV. I'm like, well, the fucking YouTube exists, you lazy fuck. Like, I don't know. Like, that's it. Or you hire someone to do it.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. When you show up, what area are you mainly staying in, the Michigan or that market for your level 1s? Do you travel back through different coasts?
Yeah. When I was on kid staff, I was all over the world, but now it's been more regional with just the level 1s. And then the online level 1s, I do a ton just because kids.
So I used to host level 1s and level 2s in Charlotte. And we did that for like 2 years. And it was just, it was crazy. It was just how many of them there were. And it's like, at some point, how many more years can they do? 60 people a cert, 10 plus certs a weekend? Like, what does that look like now? Like, what's the volume of certs?
I'm not sure on the exact number per weekend. They're still running every weekend, and they're smaller. Like for the level 2, were they at 60 when you were hosting?
Level 1s were 60.
Yeah.
The level 2s were definitely smaller, 25, something like that, 30-ish.
Yeah. When I started on staff, like as an intern, there was I think it's 1 trainer per 10-ish.
Got it.
Participants, and there was 5 or 6 of us. And now it's like, it's not uncommon to have 2-person gigs or 3-person gigs based on the number. So it depends on the gym and the size. Like Joe will cap his at 30. So there's 2 or 3 trainers. So they're smaller, but they're still happening. And I don't know the exact numbers, but
sure.
People are still hungry. Like even just regular CrossFitters we have a couple members who were just hungry for the information that just took their level 1 because they wanted to know more. We've had about 4 or 5 members. So
yeah,
it's,
do you ever find that you think gym owners, like there's a spectrum of your consumer, right? And I'm not talking like early adopters and laggards necessarily, but like there's that really kind of go down the rabbit hole. That's probably like maybe 20% of your overall membership. 60%, is kind of like, yeah, I'm just here. And, if I learn some more things while I'm here, that's cool. But if I don't, that's fine. And then there's the ones that no matter what you tell them, they just like refuse to soak in the information. They could be a client for 7 years and still asking what a thruster is type scenario, right? So like,
oh yeah,
that's the spectrum. I find a lot of gym owners, though, treat the business as if that top 20% that's gone down the rabbit hole, that eats, sleeps, and drinks CrossFit, has maybe even taken level 1, like that's the majority. When the majority, like, I want to get in, I want class to start on time. I want it to sure as fuck end on time. And I want to walk out of there saying, I got in a good workout because I'm only able to make it here 3 days a week. And it's important for me to feel like I got a good workout, however what perception that is. Why do you think affiliate owners, a portion of them, not all of them by any means, treat the rabbit hole, Kool-Aid drinkers like that's everybody, or they run the business as if that was everybody?
I don't know if it's the ego of like, look what I know and how much I can teach you. That's my perception of it. But it's just like your brewery example. Like I want a good cup of coffee. Like I call it what you will. I freaking love Dunkin' Donuts espresso. Like I don't care how they make it. I know that it's consistent every time. I want 4 shots. I want it in a medium cup of ice, and I want 5 creams on the side. I go there because it's consistent. It's the same every time.
I literally
And
saw a post you made today. I was looking to see what you had done today, and I saw you had posted up your Dunkin' Donuts, like your order, and I was like,
I live by it. It's
it literally
the
was just, it was
freaking
exactly
best.
that.
Yeah. And guess what? I used to go to Starbucks. Dunkin's closer to my house, so I'm gonna go to Dunkin'. It's convenient.
Convenience. Wait, are you
Yeah.
choosing convenience over community, Jen? Oh my,
I sure am.
that's so crazy.
Yeah.
We interacted originally for this. I did a remix on something that Jason and Fern had put up. I apologize, I don't remember the name of the female. I know she owns CrossFit Roots, which is a very
Mhm.
well-known gym. And making a statement like affiliate owners need to make sure that the members understand maybe the deeper meaning of CrossFit. And I get where she was going with it, in that, like, if these people have a tighter connection, they understand like why this is being programmed. Maybe they'll have more of an interest. And if you have more of an interest in something, they might stick around longer.
Mhm.
There,
But
I
isn't that my job as an affiliate owner to, like, kind of like you said, if the members are buying into Andrew and I and what we care about, that's my job. Like, I'm your tour guide. I will take care of you. You don't need to worry about anything else besides, like, I'm going to keep you safe. I'm going to help you modify the workouts to your fitness level. And I'm going to bring you the best possible workouts based on the knowledge that I have right now. I don't necessarily need to send you home a packet of a CrossFit Journal article. And
sure.
if you want it down there, and I love Nicole. She is one of the smartest businesswomen I've ever met. Like, what is behind Nicole Christensen is her nickname is Systems. She has a system for everything. And I almost wish she would kind of open her books in that sense of, like, yes, she's super bought into the methodology, as we all are, and coaching and all that stuff, but, like, I want to know what your systems are, because you have one of the most successful CrossFit gyms in the United States in terms of, like, revenue. Um, so that's where I would appreciate her opening that side of her, versus, like, maybe an affiliate owner sees that, like, oh my gosh, should I be doing this? But, like, my members love my workouts, love me, they love our program, and of course they're going to love their community because everyone thinks their community is the best, and it is. But that's my job, to be the tour guide and just sit back, and just like I want the Dunkin' people to make my espresso, like, I don't really care what goes into it.
Can I ask
So
you one thing? I hear a lot of it. If I wanted to go check out the numbers on an Orange Theory or any of the franchises, I can pull up FDD documents, right? I can pull those up, pay me a fee to look at them, or look at the S1 documents, like for F45 when they went public. It gives me a good idea as to, like, the AUV, the average unit volume, or the how much money they're doing monthly, what that loss or that profit looks like. How
mhm.
do we, like, when you just said that about her, how is that just from, like, you having conversations with her in private as to what she's doing in revenue? Is there a document or some kind of data tracking that's being done on affiliates and the amount of revenue that they've made, either by running the gym, by selling the gym? Me and Ackerman go back and forth. He's like, I had the greatest sale and the largest sale in the history in CrossFit Albany. It's like, I think that was 2013. And, like, I'd love to know the number. If somebody would just share some information. I just like the
Mhm.
transparency of these things. Where are we getting this information from? Like, how do you know that hers is, like, very, very financially viable?
I guess I don't see the numbers of what she has, but based on her, I mean, we look at open signups. We look at, how many members she has signed up for the open. It's huge. Um,
Got
that's
it.
a lot
We're
of,
doing, like, back of the napkin, just basic math. Like, okay,
yeah,
she had 50% of the gym sign up for the open, and that was 200 people. So she's got 400
yeah,
members times this number.
yeah.
Got it. Okay. And that's
I wish that there was more transparency with that, of, like, we talk about, well, this is my revenue, but your rent was 40% of that.
yeah.
So are you really that profitable compared to someone whose rent was way lower and they had way less profit?
Correct.
Um,
And there's some gyms I work with guys that we purposely have zero profit. Like, we literally,
mhm,
for, like, if you actually looked at a statement at the end of the year, it's going to show like the gym made no money. The owner just sucked it all out in distributions because he or she is planning a thing they need to have that liquidity for. And it
mhm,
just, there's so many different ways to run it, where that's why, like, I'm never, like, judging someone. Like, if I heard someone's like, oh, he only did 50 grand last year. Like, what is that? Could be great. I don't, like, what does that mean? There's context to
right,
all these things.
right.
I hate this blanket statement type scenario. Now, with a license model, they, it could be, I know a couple of licensed brands that do this where the information is volunteered and shared throughout the licensees. And it's not necessarily meant to create scoreboards and competition, though we know in the affiliate world it absolutely would, which might be a good thing. Might be might be a really good thing. But it at least gives true data points. Because if I have to read one more Zen planner or fucking Mind Body State of the Union report in which I'm looking at this, I'm like, no offense, but we have half stupid people entering in this information wrong into the system, right? Where they're letting punch cards with no expiration dates get counted as students and memberships. And it's all bad data. It's bad data because of human error and entry. Has anyone ever have you ever heard that conversation get brought up? Like, why don't we collect the financial data and talk about that?
No, it's kind of, again, it's like this elephant in the room. Like, why aren't we doing this to just not only help people? Like, my mind is blown how many times Andrew will talk to an affiliate owner. He's like, hey, can you just pull up your X, Y, and Z? They're like, what? Can you pull in? And that's where we're starting. And it that's hard to be a business owner if you don't have any systems like that. So
yeah, I get a lot of affiliate owners who shit on Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness is it's not just my opinion, is the most successful fitness franchise that's ever existed in the franchise system, from replication and success rates. Like, you rarely see a Planet Fitness close. They have great margins for the people who open those up. And they bash that. I'm like, why? They're like, well, it's $9 a month. It's low barrier entry. Anyone get them? Like, so's the CrossFit affiliate model.
yeah.
It's literally a volume-based, low barrier entry, because the CrossFit machine got so big and so expensive. It needs these constant there's 3 revenue streams. There is education, affiliation, and then I would say the games, but that was a loss. So only 2 out of the 3 made money, but those were the main 3, revenue streams for CrossFit. Right. And Jim's like, well, bash that. I'm like, but look at that on the CrossFit side. Like, we have to, like, well, why don't they raise the standards and make it harder to become an affiliate? Because that is not the business model. It's volume based, guys. It's volume based, and you wouldn't want it to be. You wouldn't want it to go to 25,000 a year.
No.
Like, 25 grand a year, I would say there'd be 15% of you standing.
And probably them, saying you have to play this music and do this programming, and you know what I mean? There's
those things they couldn't do because that'd be franchise. They could never tell you guys what to do. They could do what OPEC, like, you could, if you didn't do it the way they liked, they do a year-to-year license agreement. And if you're violating it, you just don't get to renew your license, and you spend all the money on the CrossFit, sign out front and the logos and all the shit. So
but at 25 grand for that, that'd be like, well, what else are you going to do? Like, well, I can tell you to do X, Y, and Z, but again, that's not the affiliate model, you know?
I agree. We did a thing where I had to write a business plan, and I did one where I was at this like workshop thing for entrepreneurs, and I rewrote one for CrossFit where we'd make it real expensive. Let's call it 25 to 30 grand per year to be an affiliate, but there was only going to be like, what was it? I think we said 100 affiliates, 2 per state across the US. And the way that the benefit is they would host regionals and sanctionals in gyms. So the B1, you had to have a 10,000 square foot facility. It's going to be a high volume model. You're going to have a lot of gyms, and then you can hire a lot of coaches, a lot of classes. You host the events there. There's a revenue stream. All the certifications happen in these spots throughout the country. And I worked out the numbers. It was like that. Okay, there's something here to that. But that means, unfortunately, that there's 99, the rest of all these people that have been given the entrepreneurial option. And not even the option. They had the option to open a gym back then. Right. Now they were given the missing piece, the education. Right. Yeah. Everyone who became a CrossFit affiliate owner, in my opinion, probably didn't like their job before they found CrossFit. They didn't like it then. They just didn't know what else they'd do. They saw CrossFit. They looked around at this, warehouse. They're like, well, this can't be that fucking hard. It's a warehouse. Had CrossFit been done in Orange Theory like facilities, you'd be like, I can never afford this upfit. This is $1 million build out right here. There's no way I can afford this.
Right.
But because they were done in these, it gave you the inspiration.
It's the evolution. I mean, I started CrossFit in a garage, and that was cool in 2009. I would never do that. There's the gym that we at Joe's gym back in the day, there was no heat.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. Like,
In
I want my
Michigan.
members to have, yeah, like that's not going to fly. Like this whole, let's run in the winter on the snow and ice. I'm like, no, give me the heat. I want air conditioning.
Yeah,
Like my members deserve air conditioning. They deserve cushy treadmills if they want,
sure.
because they don't want to run outside because it hurts their knees. Like that's where, and that was not, that was Pukey the Clown. It was no warm up and just go. It was rip the barbell. And if those gyms are struggling, it's like they're not evolving. Like this is the evolution. The Orange Series are who we're competing against,
Sure.
and they have air conditioning. you know, they're catering to, I don't care, the fluff. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. Everyone, we all talk. So I was there too. I was there in the early days. And I just remind everyone, I'm like, yeah, you're right. But look at Spotify now. And then look at Napster.
Yeah.
Everything, like everything evolves. I remember
Yeah.
downloading Napster and I didn't know whether I was actually getting like, can I get a what by Jay-Z or whether I was getting porn? Like I had no idea. And I would have been fine with both back then. It didn't
Yeah.
really matter to me. I'm good. But like, it's like the evolution of this entire thing. Like everything sophisticates. Everyone's always like, it's tip of the spear down. Kinda from an adoption standpoint, maybe, but even then I could argue otherwise on that. But it's just like, guys, this thing is just sophisticated. Like it was in a warehouse and it was all that because honestly, back then, if you would have gone, like, and again, we also remember the economic crash, but like it was like 2008 and 9 and 10. The only thing really available for you was warehouse space that you could
Right.
afford and you could get it for really cheap. But even Glassman, I remember his like he had 2 journal articles and it essentially was like how to outfit a warehouse and why a warehouse was better. And he was 100% right. High ceilings for rope climb, all the things that it needed. None of it had to do with the business. He never once talked about revenue per squeeze, nor should he. He was growing a fitness methodology. And the
Right.
fitness methodology, and I get in the fights with the best hour today guys on this. It's not a business model. CrossFit is not a business model. It's
No.
just a fitness model. That's
right.
it.
And that's kind of going back to the point of the level 1. Like you can't, well, did you teach hip extension? It's like, well, yeah, but that's not part of the business. That's part of the methodology that you're teaching. And don't, if there is 10 people in the world and I had to get stuck in an elevator for 24 hours with them, Jason Ackerman would be on the list. I love that guy. But no, the methodology is what we're teaching, but it doesn't change the fact that how am I going to supply a class of 24 every single time with 1 erg per person? Like how's that going to happen?
But if you feel free to come clean. The reason if you got stuck on an elevator is because you could take his little ass and put him on your shoulders and lift him up and he can move the tile and get up on top of the elevator shaft and Bruce Willis his way and get you out. That's what it would have been.
That's it.
I love you, Jason. I'm just busting balls. But I get it. It's do you like where it's going? I mean, I asked you earlier, those 3 gentlemen, had you met any version of the CEO? And it was like, hey, not really. But when you look at everything from afar, Kalipa reaffiliating, how do you feel about where it's going from? Not the fitness methodology, like that's good. We're good there. I'm talking like the opportunity for the affiliate.
I think that with Don in charge, from what I've been hearing, is that he is just so open to building relationships with people like that are outside the CrossFit methodology. Like how can we learn? Like NC Fit recently reaffiliated, because that's where Don went, and we take a lot of inspiration from Jason's programming. And I just feel the vibe from him is that he is just very welcoming, welcoming to new ideas, new experiences, and haven't met him in person, but that's just the vibes that I'm getting. Like let's not be CrossFit against the world, because that's not how we grow. Look at like Miranda and Julian, their fitness freedom campaign, like blows my mind. I mean, they're just great. And again, we pull from that too. Like, you don't want to do snatches today, like do whatever you want because you walk through the door. Like, I don't care what you do. Just have fun and get a good sweat, and I'll play a good playlist. Like that's what we're about. So
yeah, one of my favorite quotes was that Pat Sherwood quote that a bunch of gyms put on their door, like blow off some steam, crank some music, have a good time, that kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Let me you obviously seem to have the culture dialed in. And again, I feel like maybe that's where a lot of CrossFit affiliates have, like, it's this mix of like, they have some old school CrossFit members that kind of, this kind of culture, they can be a pain in the ass, right? And then they have kind of this new age kind of whatever. And, you know, people that are coming from Orange Theories that have high expectations of service and hospitality. What advice do you have? You know, because you've obviously seen plenty of your share of gyms and things like that. Like, what is your advice for the CrossFit affiliate owner that is looking at this and we tell them your methodology is great? Don't worry, like your coaching, even subpar, is still, it's still a great methodology. There's plenty that can be cleaned up there, but that's not why your kid is going to have their put their braces on layaway. Right.
Yeah.
It's due to the fact that you do the business acumen side. I know that's typically what Andrew's doing, but I have no doubt you have plenty of this acumen yourself. What advice would you give on the business side, just from what you see from afar?
Yeah, I just think it's being open to things that aren't typically in the CrossFit gyms, the gym space. For example, we offered 24/7 access to our members. Like, that is newer to we were the first in the area to do that.
Hybrid AF.
Yep.
Right.
It's just, you can't get so stuck in the ways of like, this is not 2009. Like, you know, we talk about parents and teenagers wanting to do the same class together. In the kids course, we talk about like, no, that's a hard no. You're not going to do that. That's so wrong. And I understand the reasons behind that, but also what is wrong with a mom and a dad coming with their teenager to a class? Like, be fluid, be open to just change, and be open to things that you have been told are wrong in the past, and just give it a go, because you're not going to expand. What, like, for example, doing even like the type of programming that you run, we do majority AMRAPs because it enhances the culture of someone not finishing 19 minutes after, you know, someone else.
Yeah. I love that.
But again, the methodology says that, nope, can't do that. Must be task priority most of the time. Well, we change that. We do time priority most of the time.
And you're not a believer in program for the best and scale for the rest?
No, I program I program for the majority of the members in my gym to be successful, because success is fun. I don't care who you are. I don't care how competitive you are. The more successful you are at the thing that you're doing, the more fun you're going to have. So if I can have, like, if I program a workout and, you know, 5% can't hit that RX button, that was my bad. I'm not like, I got them. You know, it's how many people can hit that RX button, because it's fun to do that. And it's fun to see, you know, just that part of them light up. It's something so simple in their everyday life that they're like, I hit the RX button today. That's super cool. I'm bringing it down a notch so that the majority can do that.
I feel like so much of Greg Glassman's advice, the really pieces that the community needed, just came a little bit too late. 2016, December 16th. There's a journal video in which Greg makes a plea to the community to use dumbbells more in training. The dumbbell is a better indicator of someone's imbalances, left to right, strength, mobility, all that. It is far less intimidating from someone's first impression. It also has way more versatility and from the positions of the grip, and you can place it for your shoulder, all the good things, right? Grip strength. You know, you want more pull-ups, you should be able to hold 2 dumbbells that are, you know, if you're a 200-pound man, you should be able to hold 50% at a minimum of weight in your hands for 60 plus seconds. That kind of shit.
Right.
I feel like at that point it was too late. The kipping train, the fucking touch and go train had left the building. He later went on. I remember Chris Cooper had a great podcast with him, and Greg says, if I could go back, I would have never given this kipping thing as much green light as I did. Like, kipping is just what you're meant to do when you can't do it strict anymore. I think, like, almost word for word what he said. But it was that point, it was already gone. And yet I have kids walking in, and it's one of the things that made me, you know, back away from the methodology when I de-affiliated, was just like, I couldn't control, you know, somebody walk in and be like, yeah, I got to do these butter pull-ups. How do you do these butter? I'm like, oh, you're fucking this thing it's called a butterfly, and I don't want to teach it to you. I don't want to teach it to you. But like, that was the thing that they had seen. Where, for you, from a movement perspective, because this is, you travel around, you teach the movements, where did we maybe like, if you got to rewrite the history book as to what we were teaching and at what stage of the evolution of it, what would you change and why?
Ooh, that is a tough question. Um, Changing the movements. Um, I think that doing more reps is always better. It gives you more of a chance to do it either right or wrong. It gives your coaches a chance to correct you more. That's why we do longer later. Um, I don't know. I think that the leaderboard and the ego gets in the way sometimes, and people will literally die for points. So it's like, how do you strip that back and say, but that is what we teach. You know, this is the progression of how you're going to get there. Mechanics, consistency, intensity, but we don't in affiliates it doesn't happen. It's here's the thing, and then you're going to go fast because the guy next to you is doing that. So how do we, I mean, I guess it trickles down from the owner or the programmer of, I know you're big into the tempo stuff, like you can make that really, really difficult. Um,
Absolutely.
but it's just not as fun.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
It's for for a strength piece, like love the tempo. Um, it forces people to slow down. It forces people to think, pausing and whatnot. Um, but as far as like a workout goes, I don't know. How do you keep the fun factor with that?
yeah, I was gonna hit Andrew up on this. So the gym I go to, they asked me to program a 9-week cycle of my tempo training for their group class. I go to this gym,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been really good about like separating church and state and just being a member. And I go to my open gym and do my thing. But they're great people. The community is amazing. So one day a week for 9 weeks is tempo, and it's always in in a Metcon format,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it's it seems like it'd be boring. And there's two things that I think people realize. They think that because it's tempo, it has to be light.
Yeah.
Like once you get into tempo and you've been doing it for a little while, you'll be impressed. Like, oh my God, on my 85% of my 1 rep max press was X.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I now can do like elevate. I could go up 3 inches, hold, up 3 inches, hold, up 3 inches, hold, lockout, down 3 inches with 85% of like, I can do with very high percentages. This is actually not just light, silly,
Right.
frail shit. And then the key is like, well, everything has tempo. That's the thing is everyone thinks tempo slow. It's not. Touch and go
Mm-hmm.
is tempo. It's just it's fast
Right.
tempo. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You just have undulating speeds of movement. I had Ian King on the podcast. He's this famous coach out of Australia. He's the godfather of tempo. He literally is the one who created everything we read today on tempo. And he goes, that's the whole thing. He's like, motherfuckers, everything is tempo.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. If you're doing 21:59 as fast as possible, it's just a very fast tempo. Every piece of
Right.
music has tempo.
Yeah.
So it's just fast and slow. And you want to create that, little bit, we talk about interval training, which we all have, right? The heavy thing has a spike of heart rate when you're hitting that CP work.
Right.
And then as you rest in between sets, the heart rate drops back down.
Mm-hmm.
You can create that exact same thing with tempo. It is 100% possible. And going to your thing where you guys teach mechanics, consistency, and then intensity, you're right. Volume, like my OPEC cert, every good certification, Eric Cressy, everyone teaches high reps is what every beginner needs in the beginning from practice. It's just practice. High
Mm-hmm.
time under tension is what they need as well, because it's practice and positional awareness and kinesthetic
Right.
awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's we touch on every modifiable variable in CrossFit except time under tension and speed of movement. It's the only one minus the L sit in like the 2013 or 14 games in whatever
Mm-hmm.
at the StubHub Center. It was just that was the only thing. Like that L sit for time was the only isometric tempo based hold. And I would love to see some more of that shit come back.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that you had did you have Brian Borstein on your podcast?
No, I
Or
had
someone?
I had LCK on.
Okay, okay. So Andrew and I worked with Brian for a year,
Yeah.
and learned a ton from him. It's the same thing. Like he is just so intelligent with the way that he programs. It was more OPEC style.
Yep.
But learning all of that, like working out smarter versus like running your head into a wall, can your first half and your second half of your workout be literally the exact same?
Sure. Yeah.
In terms of, intensity. And then of course we would look at movement quality, for our members. But yeah, there's so much like brain power that can go behind programming that way. But with tempo, like there's no leaderboard involved, right? You just, is it like,
Yeah, I mean, if I had all the money in the world and had a bunch of smart scientists, MIT kids, I would create some smart collars that you'd have an app, you'd enter in your height, blah blah blah, and you do some reps, and so that way, like, it would measure the distance the collar
yeah,
traveled of a good full rep, and
okay,
then it would measure time under tension, and depending on the workout protocol, like, hey guys, we're doing this tempo, your ability to stay within the range would light
got
up
it.
green in your case. Like if I just were to broad stroke this idea.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I mean, there's no
'Cause-
leaderboard. I think the leaderboard ultimately, it could be anything. It could be load. It could be,
right.
because again, there's always going to be an element to go fast,
Yeah.
right? So
And
like
I'm
you make up your time. Yeah.
not necessarily a leaderboard, but like the data associated with it. So it's like you got this person, like, well, we're doing the tempo thing, and it's like she's going way faster. And it's like, how do you standardize that for each person? You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So like if you're doing 3 seconds down, 3 second hold, so it should be at least at a minimum 6 to 7 seconds per rep type scenario.
yeah,
So if you
yeah,
did 10 reps, but you finished
yeah.
in 40 seconds, we know you
Mhm.
cheat, you weren't doing the full thing, that kind of
Right.
scenario.
And that's
And
where
then,
I think like it's a standard, like chin above bar, arms extended at the bottom. We're just like,
which, what do we do
that's,
about that anyway?
yeah, yeah,
And besides a competition, like that's the thing, like standards are
right.
designed for the ease of judgment and
Hmm.
judging. Standards are designed from a movement, protocol, but there's some, and I guarantee you have some clients, you're not having squat, crease the hip below knee because of
Correct.
maybe a thing going on. So
Correct.
it's, there's standards of movement for judging and competition. There's standards of movement for, proper range of motion and what's appropriate for that individual at this given time.
Right.
And it's, we would go back, we talk about like real training is boring. So like I'm training for this marathon and the training is very redundant. Like like an OPEX, right? You'd stay on the same A and B training split for fucking 8 weeks. You deload and then
Hmm.
retest. We
Hmm.
have to give everyone something new and fluffy and crazy and different all the time now with boutique fitness, which is one reason, going back to it, I understand commercial fitness needs to be fun. Like they got to come in, they got to want to do this stuff. And if they do the same thing over and again, that will get boring. But the kids who want to be the competitors, they're like trying to break it in and be like, okay, listen, you can't have both. You can't be like my regular Gen Pop coming in here just to have fun 3 days a week. If you really want to be a competitor, you actually just need to be doing the boring shit. Like
Yeah.
repetitively doing the same shit week to week to week to week to see progress and results. And it's like they don't
Hmm.
want to do that. They want to kind of live somewhere in the middle. And
Yeah.
that's what's like, and that's why you have a 9 to 5 job and you're not actually on the table to be a real competitor in any sport because you won't
Yeah.
do what a real athlete has to do.
And we've like upped the ante, right? So anything that we see at the games, like, oh, I got to get a pegboard. Like, we're not getting a pegboard, or we got to do legless rope runs, like all that fancy stuff. Like, it means nothing if you don't have the basics mastered. So why aren't we doing more reps for longer workouts at the basics? Um,
Yeah.
so, and
Yeah.
I think when you program, that's your biggest fear. Like, oh gosh, they're getting bored. Like if
Sure.
I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
getting bored, I don't get bored of my own programming, and I've been doing CrossFit for 14 years.
Yeah.
So I just got to remember that as a like, I don't, we don't throw in it like might get fired. We don't program overhead squats or squat snatches
Sure.
at the gym. So it's just yeah.
Going back to that, like my favorite version of the Olympic lifts became over time became the dumbbell variations.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought there was nothing more powerful than a double arm dumbbell snatch, not taking it from in between the legs like a kettlebell swing, but actually just taking it from the sides and being able to wheel, like just two pairs of heavy dumbbells. Like you show me somebody who can push press 155. But if I went ahead and took, I split that weight in half, I gave them each that in their hands of dumbbells, it's very like they don't have the strength to do it.
Right.
And now dumbbells get expensive post COVID and things like that. And I get why affiliate owners, like after that one Dave Castro workout with the 50 pounders finally came out, that annoyed everybody. But I was right on board. Even you remember John Gilson with Again Faster?
Mm-hmm.
He, like after Glassman made that video, he went around the country and he did a bunch of them. He did dumbbell seminars, like teaching people different ways to do dumbbell training and think about how they teach the Olympic lifts with dumbbells differently. He did this entire thing. It was very short lasting because I think it was too late by then. And people are like, fuck it, man. I've hook grip now. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
doing this shit with the dumbbell, right? Like I'm not going
Yeah.
backwards.
Yeah.
But I believe there's
Uh,
still so much ability there at an application.
Chris Spieler's really into, I don't know if you've seen any of his stuff lately, um, dialing it back in. He has like flow workouts, and like if you can't do half your body weight of a goblet squat X amount of times, like you should not be Olympic lifting,
Sure.
things like that. So it's like I love seeing that evolution of like, and he was a games athlete for how many years, and
100%.
for him to be dialing things back like that. The flow, we used to call our workouts flow or compete, so now we call them train or compete. We have a train day, usually 3 train days, 1 compete day, and then a strength endurance day. But he uses the terms flows and things like that. So I love seeing that.
Real quick, what do you what do you do to keep your members motivated? I've been having this discussion since my discovery of like fitness racing and high rocks and all that. And like, what is it that we have besides the open, like 3 workouts of the year? Like, get the fuck out of like, I get it, but what is it that our functional fitness gyms have to do, like our members have to do outside the gym that allows them to celebrate that fitness and looks like that fitness?
In terms of motivation, I do like giving them sneak peeks into what's coming up. Like, hey, we're doing a new strength cycle. They're like, sweet. Or hey, it's Murph prep now. Sweet. Like there's just little like
Sure.
tidbits every 3 to 4 months of things that we're working toward. Like we're doing street parking vault workouts every Monday. So you do 1 workout a week for 25 weeks, and then it repeats in the second half of the year. And you just see if you can best your score. That's what we're doing. I know they're not keen on like, hey, beat your score, whatever, but that's something, it's just like keeping them coming into the gym. We do monthly challenges, reps, like last month it was walk a mile a day or something, things like that.
Do you
But
feel that? Go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
No, all you.
I think the coaches being involved and just little fun things here and there. Like, yes, CrossFit is fun and it's exciting and it's fun to PR and it's all that, but people love to work out. They do. Like they love doing extra. They love being in the gym. At least our community does. So how can we like entice them just to do a little bit more than they want to or thought they could?
Do you feel with Murph coming up, a lot of gyms do this like Murph prep? Do you
Mm-hmm.
feel it takes away from the meaning of it? Like it's about a dude who died, and now it becomes a performance date on someone's calendar. And I've seen with my own eyes, men and women who wore they look like they're in Tom Clancy Rainbow Six with their fucking vest on, and they're literally angry or crying at the end of the workout. And it's not due to the fact that a guy died. It's because they didn't hit the performance metric they were chasing. It's like, whoa, back it up. Do you remember why you were doing this? I don't believe people do Murph out of love for Michael Murphy. I don't. I believe the majority of it's because it's a suffer fest. It's a hard fucking workout, and that's what they love. We are a culture of loving addiction and suffering and workouts. But then you do get into Murph prep, and then it's like it's a part of your fucking training cycle now. It's not like isn't as special.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it again trickles down from the owners. Like, are you remembering why you do this? Or is it just like, this is the guy, put it up on the board, let's go. Like,
sure. Yeah.
And I think that the egocentric owners are going to make it about the performance, right? How do they act on that day? Is it about Michael Murphy, or is it about you showing off your abs? And trust me, I see it all.
Yeah.
I see it all of like the open is my chance to rip off my shirt. I'm a big fish in a little pond. I'm going to do this celebration in front of my high school athletes. Like that's the culture that you've created.
Yeah.
Or are you someone that puts everyone else first? Like how are the owners reacting to that? How are the owners promoting that? And I get what you're saying, like the Murph prep. We do it in terms of like safety and just excitement of bubbling up.
Yeah. When I think of Murph prep, it's I was talking to a couple of kids at the gym I go to, they're talking about the Murph preps, whatever. I was like, you know what you need to do for Murph prep? They're like, what? I'm like, run longer than you run in class. Cause do you do pull-ups on every day during the week? They're like, well, yeah, we do a lot of pull-ups. I'm like, do you do a lot of squats? Last time I checked, it makes about 2/3 of the CrossFit movements are squatting based. So you probably do get enough of those. To do enough horizontal pressing? Probably not. Everyone could probably use the work on their push-ups. But the reason Murph is so hard and it's a suck fest is because in commercial CrossFit, we are not training people across broad time and modal domains. It's fucking impossible when you're trying to run a business to train people across broad times. You're training people 9 to 15 minutes on fucking average, because that's what a business model of 60 minutes in. All right, next fuckers, you're up 60 minutes out. Like
Yep.
that's the business model we're in. The Murph is hard because of the dark time domain and the volume of running. That's it. That is 100% it. Why it's fucking difficult. And running is the most complicated body weight movement in the world. Body weight movement is the most complex, more complex than a handstand push-up or a muscle up. Running with good technique is extremely is difficult because everybody has, 30 plus years of doing it wrong that you have to break when you want them to run really well. Versus a muscle up, they've only just saw it. You still have a lot of opportunity to teach that to them because it's fresh. But running, you got 30 years of motor recruitment patterns in that brain that are already downloaded that you got to fight through. Watching people who are movement technique, like for running, like gait coaches and stuff like that, I've been working with a lot of them. Like, man, you guys have your work cut out for you. Like, I'm a disaster. Like, you've got to fix fucking 37 years of shitty running.
And it's like for them to have that eye too. Like people are like, can you help me with my running? I'm like, no, I can't. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea what's wrong, but something looks very wrong.
Yeah,
like,
I'm like you.
It's insane. I took like a pose running course or something. I'm like, none of this makes sense to me. I have no idea. It's because you do what comes naturally to you, and it's wrong.
I get it. The biomechanics, like you give me anything in resistance training or body weight to resistance training, the biomechanics just makes sense to me. But I mean, for the past year, I've literally been filming myself, and I sit here and I just practice my gait, and I practice my foot strike as I stand here and type, and I watch myself run. I'm getting better at it. But the biomechanics, I felt like I'm embarrassed to say I'm a fitness professional because I cannot even talk about the biomechanics. I have no idea what my hip and hamstring are doing when I'm running.
Yeah.
It's so foreign.
That's like a new challenge though. I mean, it's got to keep you motivated to to be a beginner in something,
which I love, which I feel that's a lot of CrossFitters. Like when it's like, hey, you're really good at butterfly chest to bar pull-ups, but you literally can't do one strict without lifting your chin up over it like this. Let's try like slow. Let's take you back to like actually banded tempoed pull-ups and get that scapular retraction so you could actually pull the bar lower instead of lifting your chin. No, man, you know how hard I had to work to get to this butterfly level. I'm not going back. I'm never going back. Like getting them to regress and be a beginner again. They're like, I was a beginner once before CrossFit and that sucked. And now I have all these fun things I can do. I'm never going back.
Yeah.
Which I get. I just wish the perception was a little bit different.
Have you heard of the level method?
Oh, yeah, very much. Nathan Holiday. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like along those lines. Like, but I've been crushing these workouts and hitting the RX button, but like, no. We're going to take you back to this color. And they're like, what? Like, it's very humbling and confusing for a lot of people. But 100%. I think for those people who really want to get better, they're going to be fine, like willing to be a beginner, Yeah. So.
Well, Jen, listen, this was absolutely dope. I appreciate it. I could sit here and talk fucking shop with you forever. This was awesome. I gotta get Andrew on soon, and me and him could go deep down some more of the finance stuff and all that good shit. But in the meantime, anyone who's listening to you and they liked, it was refreshing to hear them hear a CrossFit seminar staff say some things maybe they were thinking of, and maybe they have some questions for you or want to get your perspective on something. What's the best way for someone to reach out to you?
Just Instagram DMs are fine. I check them all the time. A lot of people want to know my coffee order, so I put it on there. Just kidding. But yeah, that's totally fine. DMs are fine.
I will go ahead and I will put that Instagram handle into the show notes, kids. Jen, thank you again so very much. This was awesome getting to meet with you and talk shop. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much.